Christy Lee. How are you going?
Good morning, Juliet. I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So today we have a really interesting topic to talk about, and I think because both you and I are seeing a bit of this out there, it seemed like a good one to bring up and throw about a bit.
Yeah, really, we're recording this episode, listeners, for our own benefit. It's the truth. Well, my benefit today specifically. We're talking about motivation, and I was sharing with Juliet earlier that I'm feeling a little lost on the motivation front, and a lot of the clients that I'm talking to at the moment are also bringing the challenge to the table of motivating their team and how to get people moving. And the staff that I'm talking to in those businesses are tired and cranky and not particularly motivated themselves. So there does seem to be a lot of it going on right now. And so today we want to chat about motivation, but also engagement and what the difference actually is between the two, and why both are really important with our teams.
I think it is interesting because you and I've been talking. I've been running these workshops around Australia lately, and at every single workshop, this is something that comes up. It's how do we motivate our people, but how do we keep our people? Because there's this churn happening.
Yeah.
It's just awful on so many levels. It's expensive, it's terrible for morale, it's really unproductive. So the engagement side of that, I think, is really important. Yeah. And, without engagement, you're not going to get motivation, are you?
That's right. And I think that's a really important distinction, because on the surface, as leaders, we kind of talk to motivation because that's the surface level stuff that we see. That's the action being taken, and it's more tangible, where engagement is a bit of a different concept, which is a little more under the surface. And that's why it's harder to articulate and certainly harder to see.
Yeah.
But if you don't have engagement, you're never going to have motivation. So the two do definitely go hand in hand.
Totally. One of the things I've been talking with the groups I'm working with at the moment about is because I see this all the time, and I see it particularly in smaller businesses and in rural enterprises, is this: we bring people into work to do work, but we forget to engage them with the why we're there. Yeah. So they never get to think about the exciting stuff. They never get to get that sense of being connected to something bigger than themselves. They just come to work, do their work, go home. And they get paid every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. But there's no sense that, I'm really contributing to something here. And I think we forget that. And often we forget that when we set up our own business, because we're so into it. And it probably seems a bit obvious to everybody else.
It's so true. And I think we fall into the trap of thinking motivation is a them problem, not an us problem, like it should be on their shoulders to be self-motivated. Yeah. But it actually is something that we need to take on as leaders, because if we're not doing the things to engage people and then to motivate them, it's our business that suffers at the end of the day. And if we're leaders within an organisation, it's our insanity that suffers at the end of the day. So it is something that we need to take on. And this concept of really tapping into being part of something bigger, contributing, it's important to everyone fundamentally, because people want to feel that they're part of something, but it is especially important to the younger generations in the workplace. And I know this is, conversations you've been having have been around generational differences, and it is fundamentally important to the younger generations coming into the workplace at the moment. It is a non-negotiable for them that they are part of something. And it doesn't have to be social enterprise or charity. That's not what we're talking about. They want to feel they're contributing at a higher level. And if you're not articulating that to them, you've got zero chance of having them engaged. And that's where churn comes in. So there's a lot at play here.
I think you're absolutely right. And it sounds counterintuitive, because, we've talked about generational difference in the past in other episodes, but this younger generation who are so connected digitally are looking for a different sort of connection at work. And they are looking to be part of something bigger. I mean, they also, want your job instantly too. So there's some frustration there, and feel unmotivated the minute they're not sort of promoted into something senior. But I think we can make that work. And if people are engaged with why we're there and engaged with the goals that we have, then they'll do anything
Mm,
knowing it contributes to that goal. You know, they're
yeah,
not worried about whether their work is sexy or not. You know,
no.
you know, they'll do the menial tasks. They'll do the stuff that just needs to happen
Mhm.
because they understand how it contributes to that bigger picture.
Yeah, and I think generally as leaders, we are terrible at communicating that sometimes. And I'm thinking of a team I've been working with recently, and I've been having conversations with some of the team. Interesting that you say they want your job the next week. They're a young team, and the key theme was, I haven't been promoted in a year. Like, a
Yes.
year?
Yeah.
Really? That's fast. And there's only so many promotions that can happen. And when I really dug down, the key issue they've got is communication.
Yeah.
No one is clear about the vision of the business. They know what they're doing. They're doing high quality work. They're professionals, but they're not tied into anything bigger. So therefore, they're putting their own sort of markers in, which is promotion, which is salary increases, because the communication's totally missing for them in terms of the bigger picture. And when I shared it with the business owner recently, it was like a light bulb went off that, oh, bless you. Bless you.
Yeah.
A light bulb went off that she just hadn't thought that would be important to them. And this was an owner who is herself professional, very busy, and was really trying to look after her people. She, in COVID times, was buying all the rat tests, making sure everyone was very safe and well, and buying gifts, lunches, on the outside was doing all the things to try and really look after her team.
Yeah.
But the fundamental communication hadn't happened. And one of the team actually said to me, none of it matters, because they didn't have that sense of engagement in the actual business. And if they had that, those things would have been very motivating. But because they didn't have that, there was no motivation to be tapped into. It's really interesting.
Yeah, look, and I remember years ago, it's been 6 or 7 years ago now, working with somebody in their business, and he was the lead, he was the owner of the business, and him saying, I don't understand why they're not motivated. We go for lawn bowls.
Yeah.
First Friday of every month.
Yep.
I'd buy them some drinks. How can they not be happy?
Yes. And I see this over and over again, and business owners getting so frustrated that they're spending a fortune on these big, extravagant, and these are the things that our people want fundamentally. If we haven't looked after the intrinsic side of the engagement, none of it matters, does it?
That's exactly right. And I talk to the people in my groups about, as you say, it's communication, about understanding their people, getting to know their people one-on-one, because if you know your people, then you'll understand what motivates them. The motivators for a young person just entering the workforce are completely different to those for somebody, who's just started a family, or somebody who's later in their career, who's looking to consolidate some things. They're very different motivators. And once you understand what motivates them, you can link those through to the why we're here. You can link them to the goals. You can talk about, you want to do this and we're trying to get here. How about you do this,
That's,
and you can link them in ways.
Yeah. And when you can do that, it is like setting, an ignition off. It is really the secret sauce to getting the most out of your people. So I guess we should perhaps define the difference between engagement and motivation, because sometimes it's hard to identify, but I found this definition recently, or just an explanation. I just really love it because I think it makes total sense. So engagement is a sense of purpose, belonging, and commitment to the company. Yeah. So they're all intrinsic things: purpose, belonging, commitment. It's emotional, it's internal. Whereas motivation is the willpower and the drive to actually act on those feelings.
Yes. Yeah.
I really love that distinction. I don't know whether you've got a different one, but for me, that was a really well articulated distinction between the two.
I feel like they're almost in two directions. The engagement is this internal thing, this what am I connecting to? What's the big thing here that gets me excited, that makes me want to come to work, that makes me feel like I'm part of something bigger?
Yes.
And that's this. And then there's the motivation going this way, going, okay, what am I going to do to achieve all of that?
Yeah.
To be part of it, to do my best, to feel like I'm really contributing, to feel good about myself and where my career is going.
Yeah. The engagement is the feeling, and the motivation is the willingness to take action on that feeling, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we're only addressing motivation as leaders and not engagement, no one's going to take any action if they've got no feeling or desire to do it, are they?
Absolutely, yeah. No, and I think unless you tackle the engagement thing, have that conversation, make that really clear. It's really hard to get onto the motivation bit, isn't it? Really.
Absolutely. In fact, you're basically wasting money. You're
That's
essentially
it.
throwing money at the wall because none of it's going to work.
And you haven't put that foundation piece in. You haven't put that engagement foundation in, so people are anchored to it.
Yeah.
And go forth, do stuff. Really.
Yeah. So it's and I get that it's harder because it's a feeling thing. It's not visible necessarily. So I do get why people default to motivation, but I just think it's really essential to deal with the engagement piece. And the engagement piece means having curious conversations with your people, as you said, getting to really understand them and what drives them. And it requires communication so that you're articulating what it is that we're here to do, what the big picture looks like, how all the cogs in the machine work in terms of how everyone's contributing. And sometimes we need to communicate that regularly as well to keep people anchored in, don't we?
Well, I think, it's got to be conversations. It's not just a telling. It's not just put up the poster on the wall saying, here's our vision and our goals, done, tick, get on with it, people.
Yeah.
The conversation about translating that for teams and then even translating that to the individual level. So, and somebody the other day was saying, well, I'm not their bloody mother. And I think absolutely there's an aspect of self-motivation that's required in all this. We don't need to coddle our people.
No.
But we need to put the foundations in place that enable them to go, oh, I get it, and I want to be part of it. And I'm really excited about it. I'm committed to it. And I'm going to put all my energy into it.
Yeah. I'm
going to come to work wanting to, make a difference.
Yeah, we need to create the environment for that to happen. So I was saying to one of our People Powered HR members just recently, your job is not to be the therapist in this situation, because she knew she was going to have this conversation. Your role is to create the environment where they can go and, feel comfortable enough to get that sorted out, kind of thing. So I think it's the same as, I'm not their mother. It's the exact same thing. No, that's not our job. Our job is to create the environment for them to move forward in whatever direction we need them to.
Yeah, and where they can do their best.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They can be their best and do their best. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think there's so much to engagement, isn't there, really? It is, and it's a conversation, and it's an ongoing conversation. It can't be a sort of, okay, we had that conversation last February. I don't understand why you're not all, raring to go.
Yeah. Yes, that's so true, actually. Yeah. I told you that last year. Yeah. I was just sharing with someone this week. A monthly team meeting is the space, it's the environment to re-anchor in, to remind, to discuss vision, to discuss why we're here and how everyone's contributing to getting us to where we're looking to go. It's not a set and forget situation.
I have a couple of clients who talk about their monthly team meetings, and they have weekly team meetings as well, and they do various other things, but at their monthly meeting, they pick one aspect of their goals and talk about it, and they pick a value and they talk about that.
I love that.
They're really nice ways to do it, because that's the other way we help people anchor, is through behaviours. It's about talking about how do we want to behave as a team.
Yeah. And on that point of values, it's about how do we represent those values? What behaviours are we going to display in whatever our role is, that is us, that's behaviour translated, I guess, into, showing up in those values. So this is a complex topic, isn't it? We really,
and this is it. There's lots of things to this. This is not simple, which is why I suspect it doesn't get done as well.
Yeah.
And it's just not something we tend to talk about all that much. We tend to be focused on the end results.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of about WIP and work in progress and projects, but not so much focus on this. And it is a foundation piece, really. And I like to share stats because it makes people take notice as a business owner particularly.
Mm.
And some recent Gallup survey results, and this has been backed up in lots of different studies, but, Gallup's really, a reliable source, showed that engaged teams were 17% more productive, which is obviously great, but that productivity led to profitability increases of upwards of 20%.
Yeah.
Getting a profitability bump like that in any business is hard going. So, if we do this work on engagement, and it's not hard to do, it's, and it's not expensive to do,
Mm.
Why wouldn't we if it was going to get those kind of business results?
Totally. It's interesting you say that, because I also saw a Gallup report the other day. It may have been part of the same research, but a different aspect of it, where they were talking about the mobility of people.
Yeah.
And how to poach a person who's engaged will cost your competition about 20% more. Whereas to poach a person who is not engaged will not cost them a cent more. They will go without any extra salary.
Anecdotally, I would absolutely say that is, I've seen it happen time and time again. We could probably do an entire episode on poaching and counter offers and all the things that are going on right now. It's just next level. But that's really, really fascinating.
Well, I think that's right. So there's two aspects to this, aren't there? That the research is telling us there's so much value in engaging our people. There's so much financial benefit to it.
Yeah.
Let alone all the lovely stuff that happens in a team when people feel motivated and engaged.
It's like a risk protection strategy in many ways if it stops people from moving.
Absolutely.
As well. And, if you just think about the teams that you've been in where people are engaged and motivated versus those that aren't, it's a whole lot more enjoyable to be at work with an engaged and motivated team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where personal responsibility comes in and problem solving happens, and there's, conversations around innovation. There's all sorts of good stuff comes from it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fantastic. Okay, look, I think we will keep coming back to this because it is a real foundation piece, and I see people struggling with it, and obviously you're seeing that with clients too.
Yeah.
So let's revisit this over time, because I think this is it's a one that we could all do with some help with.
Absolutely.
We'd love to hear from you if you have struggled with this, or if you found a bit of your magic potion for engagement or motivation. We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to comment on our Facebook page.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jump over to the Facebook page at Grow Your Influence. Let us know your experience. How are you engaging your team? Or if you've got questions about engaging your team, let us know and we will jump in and answer them for you.
Fantastic. Lovely to see you, Christy Lee.
Thanks, Juliette.
See you soon.